When you think of a widow, you typically think of an elderly person or maybe a distant relative or friend. Some people may think about the widows affected by the frequent deaths that we hear about on the news. But no one can ever imagine what it's really like to be a widow until you become one, and then your eyes are open. I became a widow at 29 when my husband was suddenly murdered while teaching his CrossFit class. Every single aspect of my life changed. Regardless if you lose your spouse suddenly, or even if you were prepared due to a long-term illness, you immediately enter the widow's fog. I forgot habitual routines and simple words. I would forget where I was going on the way there. This was especially frustrating when I went back to work. I was in a daze that directly impacted my performance. A grieving man said he came out of a grocery store, pushed his cart full of groceries to his car, then got in and drove home, leaving the groceries behind. Once a few weeks of autopilot wears off, you enter this unthinkable emotional state that is overwhelming and relentless. I don't know how much more I can bear. This hurts like nothing I could ever have imagined. During this time, many widows lose friends and family or other support. Nobody knows the real me. Nobody knows how many times I've sat in my room and cried, how many times I've lost hope, how many times I've fought to hold back tears, how many times I've felt like I'm about to snap. Nobody knows the thoughts that have gone through my head and how horrible they really are. With these levels of loss comes severe stress and emotional trauma that is often suppressed due to the ignorance of our society. We are required to conceal our pain in order to survive, especially at work. Additionally, organizations are not educated on how to impart the proper support during this extremely difficult time. It seems that we are expected to leave our feelings at home and concentrate only on the job. This is really not possible as our minds and hearts are consumed by what we have gone through or are going through. Work life and personal life are not completely separate, and what happens in one area of our life affects all areas of our life. When I was struck with not only pain, but also the responsibilities of becoming a widow, I longed for someone to relate to. Someone who would listen with a non-judgmental ear and reassure me that I wasn't crazy. In the midst of my journey, I decided I would not let this tragedy ruin the rest of my life, and instead I would be an example to my son that you can take pain, turn it into purpose, and pay it forward. And that's exactly what I'm doing. I created Widows at Work, a company that helps men and women transition back to the workplace after the loss of their spouse. In our corporate partnership program, my team of mentors acts as a liaison between the new widow and the employer. This is done by holding one-on-one mentoring with the widow to help him or her navigate through this daunting journey, and at the same time train their direct supervisor on how to handle grief in the workplace. There are 800,000 new widows in the United States every year. There are over 250 million widows worldwide, and over 110 million widows living in extreme poverty. Our mentorship and training services are available regardless of your location. This is not a local mission, this is a global movement. Through funding, we can provide transitional support, employment opportunities, and various forms of assistance to those widows in countries where they become victims of abuse or even shunned from their community. It's time to restore the identity of widows and empower us to continue living a full, prosperous life.